Coming to paperback and e-readers, Esteem Season of the Witch Girl. The aspiring angel takes on a wicked teenage witch in this action-packed all-new Esteem series adventure. Pre-order your copy of Esteem Season of the Witch Girl at Amazon.com and other online booksellers. Better get the cool slow, y'all, cause we're having us a barbecue. In a previous video, I talked about how many black folks were spellbound over Captain America Brave New World. Now, Captain America Brave New World is the first Marvel Studios movie to feature Sam Wilson, a black man, in the title of Captain America. And because this black man is in the role of Captain America, many black folks are believing that this is a gateway towards white acceptance. However, on the flip side, many of these white and non-black comic fans are extremely upset, and they're extremely upset because Sam Wilson, a black man, is Captain America, and in their eyes, they believe that Captain America should be Steve Rogers. Now, these people not only believe that Captain America should be Steve Rogers, but what they really do believe is in the white supremacist ideal that Captain America needs to be white because in their eyes, Captain America is a hero who represents America, and in order for him to represent America, he needs to be white. That's the real reason why many of these white and non-black comic fans are so bent up and caught up in their feelings as related to being polarized over Captain America Brave New World. Many of these white and non-black comic fans are extremely upset because when it comes to their vision of America, they have bought into the ideals of white supremacy, and as they've bought into the ideals of white supremacy, they don't want to see a black man in the role of Captain America. No, the only person they want to see in the role of Captain America representing the United States of America and the ideals of America is a white man. And this is what happens, again, when people don't really understand the subtle politics transpiring around them as related to white supremacy. When it comes to white supremacy, it's a very fragile institution and very hypersensitive. And when they see an image of a black man wearing a Captain America costume, many of these comic fans who basically, again, buy into these ideals of white supremacy, they get hair triggered, and as they get hair triggered, they basically get all upset because for them, Captain America just isn't a comic book character. He's an ideal representation of America, and he's an ideal representation of the power of white men. And when you have a white man abdicating power to give it to a black man, that's what gets these white male and non-black male comic fans in their feelings, because they feel like the white man is getting his power taken away, and they won't be able to have their fantasies regarding that white man because in their eyes, again, as they are hypersensitive, they're afraid of this black man taking a white man's power, taking a white man's power away from them as related to their represented ideas of heroism. Because in their world, only white men are allowed to have the power to be a hero in the lead role. They don't mind the black man being in a role as a sidekick where he's basically emasculated and asexualized in the background, but he needs to be in the foreground as the one having any sort of power. And this isn't the only time we've seen this whole paradigm play. Now, if anybody remembers the CBS Supergirl Supergirl show, the CBS Supergirl show had the audacity in some people's eyes to cast Mehcad Brooks as James Olsen. Now, Mehcad Brooks was a black man who was going to be cast in the role of James Olsen, and he was going to be playing against Melissa Benoist's white Supergirl. And as he was supposed to be playing the love interest, this is where the same white male and non-black male comic fans started to get in their feelings as related to that whole power dynamic as related to white characters, and this is where those racists started to express their feelings of anger because they did not want us to see a black man having power. They did not want us to see a black man having power where he was going to be involved in this relationship with this white female character. And that's where many of those white comic fans went on tirades on social media, making lots of videos denouncing Ricard Brooks, to the point where Greg Berlanti decided to go out here and make Ricard Brooks a metaphorical guardian of the friend zone, completely emasculating him before eventually writing the Ricard Brooks character out of the Supergirl show, and then bringing in a white male love interest, which really didn't help Supergirl because the show started pushing feminist identity politics, but they would rather have the feminist identity politics rather than have that black man in a position of power where he was going to be in a relationship with this white woman. And the same dynamic takes place as related to Captain America Brave New World when it comes to these white comic fans, when it comes to these racist white comic fans who want to go out here and again play passive aggressive, and passively they're saying that they are not for Sam Wilson because it's supposedly not true to the source material, when in actuality it is true to the really poor selling source material of the all new, all different Marvel, where Sam Wilson was shoehorned in the role of Captain America. But when it came down to those white males, again, they are upset because the image of a black man having power, this is the thing they're upset about. And this is where many black comic fans basically start to get it twisted about Captain America Brave New World, because Captain America Brave New World basically is again showing them that they think that they're going to find a gateway towards white acceptance, when in actuality the character in and of himself is basically alienating a lot of the white comic fans, because they don't want to accept Sam Wilson as Captain America. No, they don't want to accept Sam Wilson as Captain America the same way they did not want to go out here and accept the black female Batwoman who came on in Season 2. No, they did after Ruby Rose's Kate Kane character was basically killed off because Ruby Rose, whatever her name is, I don't remember her name, but the whole thing is she wound up quitting the show, and they decided to cast a black actress as Batwoman, and eventually that Batwoman wound up flopping extra hard because, again, white and non-black comic fans, again, in their racism, were not going to accept this character. And many people, again, what's really funny here is that many of these black folks who were not going out here to fight for Sam Wilson, as they were getting caught up in their polarization, they did not show up for the argument as related to the black female Batwoman, nor did they show up for Ricard Brooks. And that's where I go out here and have to say that these individuals are spellbound, and again, going after Sam Wilson because they basically believe that Marvel Studios has higher social currency than the Berlantiverse. But many of them, again, don't really want to acknowledge the anti-black racism that's been going on as related to these black characters, and how these black characters basically have been ridiculed, mocked, and disrespected by those white and non-black comic fans who openly go out here and again express their anti-black racism towards all of these black characters. And now these characters again are not the best characters. They're basically token hand-me-down characters which were made for a passive-aggressive approach as related to diversity, because really the creators here are being disingenuous about so-called diversity in that passively they'll put a black person in this role, but aggressively what they're doing is putting that person in that role to fail. And this is the beef that I have with, again, a lot of the black folks with Captain America Brave New World, is that they don't understand the subtle politics transpiring around them because they haven't been comic fans for as long as I have, since I was about 4 years old in 1978. So they don't really know the politics going on here with many of these white and non-black comic fans and many of these white and non-black creators, in that they want to make comics and fandom a safe haven for white supremacy, where they can go out here and elevate the image of the white man and present the image of a white man having power, and don't want anybody to see a black person having any sort of power at all. And when you do give a black person power, it's in a disingenuous fashion, where they, again, are not getting power of their own, getting a story of their own, or a mission of their own, the way Chio Hodari Coker did with Netflix's Luke Cage. I mean, with Chio Hodari Coker, he made the Luke Cage series where we got a black man who had his own power, and as that black man was gaining power, what the producers wanted to do at Marvel basically wanted to make Luke Cage out to be this bad guy, make it like he was some sort of villain, and present the whole theme of a black man having power as something bad. This is something I've run into with fandom. When I did the story John Haynes, Godbreaker, where John Haynes is taking on Thor, and as he takes on Thor, and he's holding Thor's hammer on the cover, it upset a lot of people because in these circles of fandom, they don't like the idea of a black man having any sort of real power. They don't like the idea of a black man having any sort of power of his own. And this is the racism that nobody wants to talk about as related to things. And again, the whole reason why so many of these white YouTubers are upset about Captain America Brave New World isn't just because it's Sam Wilson being Captain America. It's because a black man is having power over one of their icons, and that black man is in the position of one of their icons, and they can't take that at all. So that's why all those white guys are getting upset, because Captain America represents to them white power and represents to them the ideal of a white man in America having power. And that's why, as black people, we should just say, okay, you can have your Steve Rogers, and I'll concede that Captain America is Steve Rogers, and he's a white man's idea of power. And in order for us to empower ourselves, we need to stop supporting token diversity, hand-me-down characters with hand-me-down power, because hand-me-down power basically is given to you by white supremacy, and as it's given to you by white supremacy, it can be taken away by white supremacy. So that's not actual power. That's not actual empowering power that inspires and uplifts our brothers and sisters. No, real, actual images of power come from us and are created by us. And that's why when I see spellbound black folks, it just merely makes me sad. You're sitting here fighting over a character who was created by white men to represent their idea of black, and then be someone that they give power to. But when it comes down to an original black character like a John Haynes, who comes from a black man and presents a representation of black power, these same people, again, because they're spellbound and want to fit into a black box that's acceptable to white people, they will go out here and will refuse to support that black character who has actual power, because actual power comes from us. And again, actual power is us taking power over ourselves, taking power over our own image, taking power over our own stories, and taking control of our stories, where we create our own pop culture, where we create our own pop culture heroes, our own pop culture stories, and make our representations of Black America our representations of Black America, so that we don't need some hand-me-down character or some race swap character. No, we will have our own stories, And as we have our own stories, we basically leave their characters to that whole group of white fandom. Leave it to that group of white fandom and let them have their characters and then go out here on our own. But that's what many black people, again, are afraid to do because as they are spellbound, again, they're caught up in the magic of the guys like Sam Wilson, who again is basically dressed up in a hand-me-down suit, or the black female Batwoman, which they never paid attention to because they couldn't get no social currency from it, or when it came down to the black James Olsen, no, even though he was going out here getting almost had a chance at the white female Supergirl, nobody wanted to talk about him. But there's a clear pattern of anti-black racism in fandom that nobody wants to talk about. There's a clear pattern of anti-black racism where when it comes to any sort of character that basically looks to challenge the white establishment, those white comic fans start showing how racist they actually are. And while people will say, oh, they're just basically upset because it's not true to the source material, no, it's not. They're upset really because it's a black person having power. And again, this is the thing that makes these folks upset, makes them upset to the point where they're out here making these YouTube videos as part of their grift, because part of their grift is to go out here and make these videos, again, denouncing these projects. Now, I myself have made criticisms of this Captain America Brave New World based on the budget, because as someone who has studied the entertainment industry for over 25 years, I know when a movie is going to die, but I also know when there's anti-black racism behind the scenes. And ever since about 2016, when Black Panther was announced, Marvel Studios and Hollywood have been trying to kill the burgeoning black fantasy market. Ever since then, they've been trying to kill the black fantasy market by doing things like sabotaging the original Black Panther movie. And when that didn't work and showed that there was an audience of black people ready to go see black fantasy movies, and by making $1 billion and being the #1 movie of 2018, that's where they tried to again keep throwing monkey wrenches into things with movies like A Wrinkle in Time, which was a box office failure, and the whole complete disaster around Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, again, and this Captain America Brave New World. What they want to do again is passively say, hey, we made a movie with a black Captain America, we spent $375 million on it, and when that film goes out here and fails, then say, well, we had 3 underperforming movies in A Wrinkle in Time, Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, and Captain America Brave New World, and then say, this is the reason why we don't make black movies about black fantasy and black science fiction. This is all part of a long-term strategy as related to the media arm of white supremacy, because they don't want you to imagine a world with black people having power as related to imagining a future. Now, they don't want you to imagine yourself in that world, but even more so, they don't want you to imagine a world where black people like myself, have power over the image of black people behind the scenes. And what they want to do is, again, slowly and subtly sabotage the growing and burgeoning black fantasy and black science fiction market by producing a series of box office failures, and producing that series of box office failures because when it comes down to fantasy and science fiction, they want you to imagine a world of white people, a world of white people having power, like in many of the Star Treks, with the exception of Deep Space Nine. I mean, they only want you to see a world where the white man is the lead, or in the case of Star Trek Voyager, white woman is in charge. They don't want you to see a world where black people are in charge, black people have power, or imagine a world filled with black people where we are the center of that world. No, they don't want you to see that world. They want you to see a world where only you're looking at is white folks as the ones who have the power, and that's what they want you to see as related to science fiction and fantasy. And when it comes down to these white racist comic fans, again, a lot of them, they want the white people to have power, because for them, these escapes are a place where they can see someone like them having power, someone like them having control, and someone like them being the ones who can imagine a world where they are powerful, but they don't want us to have that power. And that's what's got so many of these racist comic fans and science fiction fans upset about Captain America Brave New World, because they don't want to live in a world where actual black creators are given that opportunity to go out here and make black fantasy films, where a world where black creators like myself can get a part of the marketplace as related to creating black science fiction and black fantasy, like I do on the SJS Direct imprint with books like the John Haynes series, the ISIS series, the Steam series. They don't like the idea of black creators getting that power, and that's the ultimate crux of this whole situation. They don't want to see a black, not only do they not only want to see black characters, but they don't really want to see black creators getting that kind of power. And that's the thing that they don't want to talk about, many of these racist comic fans. Again, they'll sit there and go into their rants talking about, how Falcon isn't Captain America. And I'll concede, okay, Sam Wilson ain't ever going to be Captain America in the eyes of white supremacy, because in the eyes of white supremacy, only a white man can represent America. But the whole real issue that they have is us walking away from their Captain America to create our own heroes, like our Icon, our Static, or in my case, a John Haynes, our ISIS or Steam. They don't like us having power and us taking our power. That's the thing that scares many of these people more than anything, because in order for white supremacy to have power, they need black people to be codependent, and codependent to the point where we take whatever is given to us instead of taking our power, to imagine a world where we don't go out here and need the validation and approval of somebody else's characters. No, the way we ultimately take our power is by creating our own stories with our own characters and creating our own followings with our own characters. That's how we really take our power, and that's what I wanted to get through to many of the spellbound black folks out here getting caught up in this rhetoric, the same way they got caught up in the rhetoric over Jamaican Indian Kamala Harris. You got to understand, again, when it comes down to this whole situation, again, Sam Wilson ain't our character. He don't represent us at all. No, we can do better than Sam Wilson, Captain America, and leave that character for those racist fanboys and leave their whole thing and go out here and create our own thing where we tell our own stories and imagine a better world than the brave new world of token Captain America. Now, my first full comic, John Haynes at Death's Door, is available on Lulu.com, and you can pick up a paper copy for the same price as the 2022 Kickstarter. And my first digital comic, A Steam No Good Deed, is available on Kindle for just 99 cents, and you can pick up that Esteem comic in the Esteem series book, Esteem Blast from the Past. And I've got a whole universe of black characters in the SJS Direct universe, and you can check out all of those characters in great stories like those featured in the ISIS series, those in the Esteem series, those in the John Haynes series, those in the Black Goth Spinsterella trilogy, and my black sorority novel, The Thetas, and my vampire novel, The Eternal Night. You can check out all of those stories in paperback and Kindle format on Amazon.com, and you can check them out on other online booksellers like Draft the Digital, Google Play, Barnes & Noble, and big box retailers like Walmart and Target. And if you'd like to see me make more videos taking the world of comics, science fiction, and fantasy to the barbecue, you can drop a donation to the Patreon, the PayPal, or the Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Coming to paperback and e-readers, John Haynes, A Thorn in My Side. The man who rules the world takes on an agent from the CIA from the Black Boule in this action-packed all-new John Haynes series adventure. Pre-order your copy of John Haynes' A Thorn in My Side at Amazon.com and other online booksellers. Now available in paperback and e-readers, ISIS, Amari's Revenge. The goddess next door is confronted by a Nubian queen out for revenge at the Metropolitan Museum of Art in this inaugural ISIS series adventure. Get your copy of ISIS, Amari's Revenge in paperback and e-readers at Amazon.com and online booksellers everywhere. Support Black-owned and Black-operated digital broadcast media. www.niceradionetwork.com. Nice Radio Network, broadcasting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.